Good morning, good morning, good morning. I am the Down Under Maker. I am the idiot who always forgets to unmute his mic at the beginning of streams. Thanks, Jeff. We have Greenbeard, we have Brad, we have Jeff, of course. Nick was around and Martin was off to quickly have some dinner, then he'll be back. Can you hear me now? Yay! Okay, so are we ready for another Squirrel Brain stream where I do random things and get sidetracked by lots of stuff? Hopefully not going to happen too much, but I did just spot something with one of my cameras. I need to turn off face tracking so it doesn't follow me around the room too much. So things have changed in the workshop. Let's have a quick look behind me so we can have a quick look here. Ender 5, now over here. Gone is the Voron. The Voron is going to be on some beta testing duty and all of that gear is under NDA, so you guys can't see it. I will quickly pan across. Yes, there is an elephant in the room because on that printer there's also some NDA stuff, so there's a big elephant there to hide it. So yes, we do have some stuff going on. Lots of new toys coming into the workshop over the next few weeks and some stuff that's already here that I'm already playing with. Once I can tell you about it, I will. Hopefully they'll let me be the first to scoop out information on the gear as it comes out, but as time progresses and betas progress, I will share what I can. On the subject of that, people have been asking me, do I have a Vivid? Do I have a Vivid? Not at this point, no. Will I get one? Don't know at this stage. On that note, I've been advised that the pre-sale will be going ahead during or just after Formnext for that. So hopefully people will be seeing that. But my understanding is delivery won't be until January. Hi, Havoc, how are you? Now, hi, Greenie, just in case I didn't say hi to you. Now, at the end of this stream, which is approximately 2 hours from now, I can't do a raid out because I'm not a big enough streamer yet. Please subscribe. I would like everybody to jump over to Discord and go on to Project in Dad's Garage Discord. He's going to be building something which YouTube isn't exactly liking a lot of late. So rather than run the risk of losing his channel, he has decided to stream it on his Discord. Thoroughly recommend you check it out. You're on the fence about Vivid? It remains to be seen. Could it be a solution for a lot of users? Quite possibly. Imagine those bed-slinging Ender 3s out there and those kind of printers. Things like the Index probably aren't going to be... yes, one of those, Brad. Things like Index aren't going to be as easy to fit onto an Ender 3 or something like that. So just keep that in mind. Now, Brad, can you please type into chat all 3? And we'll see what happens. Or bang all 3, as sometimes people say. Actually, anybody with a spanner, just do all 3 for me. Will it change? Will it change? No. Let's see if it'll do it for me. It was working the other day on a test stream. It works for me, so it must be a permissions. It must be a permissions issue. So I'll keep digging on that. Maybe I have to explicitly name people rather than just using the moderator tag. Can one of you try just Phil? Okay, so it's definitely a permissions issue. So I can do the commands from chat and it's transferring across, which means functionality is working. It's just for some reason they're not seeing that you have the software isn't seeing that you guys have permission to do it. So we'll work on that from here. So what are we doing today? We are going to be installing a new skirt on the front of the Ender. And that new skirt on the front of the Ender is going to be full of buttons. So let's jump across to this one and bring them into shot. Now, I have been working on my PETG profile for printing clear objects on the Prusa. That one, as you can see, is pretty milky. But this one, by comparison, it's not showing up so well on camera. There you can tell. Is getting much better. So I'm getting there. Morning, Kegel. How are you? So yes, I'm very carefully working on doing a almost as clear as glass kind of profile for my clear PETG, in the hopes that sooner or later I'll be able to print things like windows and stuff like that for models, just to make life a little simpler. The reason for doing these all clear, they are the backlights for the buttons that we're going to be installing in the skirt on the front of the Ender. So these are spare buttons I haven't yet installed, so I'm just going to show you. So there's the fitting on here, and there's a matching fitting in there. That then sits on the button, and then we put a keycap on there to make it show whatever we want it to show. Now, that should be that way, because the buttons are aligned. Yeah, these are all macro buttons, Havoc. Morning, Beardy. So that will mean that we can control the printer from the front. Is it more heat to a certain point to get the PETG clear? It's a mixture of a whole bunch of things, Kegel. Now, I don't pretend to be an expert, and it is one of those works in progress where you need to tune it for yourself. But there's a guide on printables by a guy who's done a really good job at it. Let me see if I can find the link, if I've still got it up. That one. No, I don't still have the link up. But if you do a search on printables for printing glass, or Google it, printing glass printables, it will come up, and that will then allow you to see his shortcuts, which get you most of the way there, and then it's down to tuning it yourself. To get PETG to go clean, you need to deal with the devil. I haven't yet made a deal with the devil, but I certainly contemplated it on one stage. Now, for Aussies, this is something you'll know all about. Today's snack du jour is Arnott's Pizza Shapes. I haven't had any breakfast, so I'm going to be snacking on these to keep me going for the next just under 2 hours, just to keep me going. And I haven't seen Pesliz in chat, but I am drinking coffee from her mug. So support your local creators. Speaking of supporting your creators, great friend of the channel, Projects in Dad's Garage, is having a little bit of a tough time medically, and he's currently between his short-term and his long-term disability payments, and things have got a little bit financially stressful for him. If you have a few spare dollars around and you can afford to buy from his merch store, head over to his channel, click the link for his merch store. Morning, Steve. And support a creator who's having a little bit of a tough time by buying a little bit of his merch, and I'm sure he'll be forever grateful. So let me quickly grab the skirts off the front of the Ender, and we will start dismantling that one and putting something new. That is not coffee, that is milk. No, it's frothy milk with coffee in it. So yeah, you can see me. Hi. Sorry guys, just concentrating for a moment while I take these skirts off. One. Now the reason for taking these off is I have spent the last week or so trying to get a one-piece front skirt for this thing, because I have the printer volume on the Voron to do it, but what I don't have is great CAD skills for getting it nice. That one's come out. Let's just take the screw away out. There we go. And I just lost that screw on the hammerhead on the floor. There we go. I got it. Ugh. So back over here. Move the side cam in so you guys can see what's going on a little bit better. There we go. So the way this works is essentially there's, I think it's an RP2040 chip here, which is just providing a whole bunch of GPIOs, which then output data for the LEDs and also output receive the touch commands from the switches. These are just bog standard cherry reds from what I can tell. I bought a box of knockoff cherry switches because I have a project planned with some students. So this is what they look like when they're not on the board, and these appear to be the exact same ones that Physek. Focus. There we go. These appear to be the exact same switches that Physek are using. So let's chuck that in there. So what we need to do is spend the next 10 minutes unscrewing all of these and then moving them onto a new skirt. Back in 1 second. 2 reasons. Number 1, I need a smaller screwdriver, and number 2, I need to grab the skirt, which only finished printing about an hour ago, on the 9th attempt off the Voron. I kept running into issues where it would just lift off at one end off the plate. And this is like attempt 6. I was using brim ears, I was doing everything right, but it just kept popping off. And then this morning, just after Modbot stream ended, I got grumpy and I just printed the world's biggest mouse ears on the corners to make sure it wouldn't lift off. And it came out. So this is the contiguous skirt, and I'll show you in one moment once I've got these off. You can see that there's the little mounting holes built in. Now, there is actually mounting a second set of mounting holes. That's for if I'd use the next set of cells above for buttons, but I chose not to just for this. And because of the way the power supply is set up in the ender, I can't use them anyway, so I filled them in to make it all pretty. Projects, you're in. I did make sure to tell everybody that after stream to go and check you out on Discord for your nerfishness, and they can then come and join you. I thoroughly recommend it. And like I said, guys, Projects is having a little bit of a tough time with some stuff that's going on medically. So if you can support him with a purchase from his merch store, please go ahead and do that. He has been a great support to me in terms of getting my streaming set up. Little bits of advice here and there to get me going and to help me get over some of the headaches that he had without having to deal with them fully. Has been awesome. Now, this is printed pretty rubbish, and I might print it again after the stream, but it's actually completed, so I'm going to run with it and we'll go from there. Use witchcraft. So did you go to Hogwarts for that, Beardy? I'm just keen to know where you learned your witchcraft and wizardry. If you're going to do it, you may as well do it right. I will appeal to Baal. Okay. So I brought that, then it's the screwdriver. So now I haven't got any great plan for how this is going to go together, other than I'm going to put the master switch, which has the RP2040 in the middle, and then I'm going to wire out from there for as long as the cables reach. Oh, speaking of electronics, as a short squirrel break in a few minutes, Brad was discussing on my Discord about some potential wiring situations that he's come up against, and I drew a picture, guys. I opened Paint and I drew a picture to try and explain a method that might work reliably for him and others, for that matter, when you're trying to power high current draw devices off Raspberry Pis. So we'll have a look at that in a few moments. I'll just get all these screws out, and then I'll bring up that page in a minute. Thanks for reminding me by talking about electronics there, Alex. That's awesome. Put that over there. Did it look like I drew with crayons? No, it looks like I've grabbed Microsoft Paint and spent all of 10 seconds dragging and dropping boxes. So, we know that Steve's going to form next, and I've heard that Luke, also aka Digital Dragon, is going to form next. Do we know anybody else who's going to form next? Is anybody in chat going to form next? Greeny, you're near enough to be able to just jump on the train. One more screw. Okay, so that's all over there. Now I've just realized that this might not fit. I'll show you what's going on. I mean, I could do exactly what I've done here with the current unit 2. I forgot that on this skirt I'd actually had to cut out a little bit to make it fit. So on the front of the ender, there is a power switch, and the bezel around the power switch sticks out, and this pretty much butts up against it. So we may have to take to this with the Dremel, which not the end of the world, but I should have thought about that. Not allowed to leave the country. Dude, are you on a watch list? It wouldn't surprise me if you were. Like I said, for the Aussies in chat, Arnott shapes, pizza flavor. So I'm just going to unplug everything for now. So what we've got, the Type-C USB port, RP2040, DFU mode button, and on the other side it's the switches. And if you have a look very closely, that's the emitter diodes for the LEDs. Yep, that's going to work. Nick, you're back. We were talking about you. Were your ears burning? Now, my wife's been pestering me to find out what I want for Christmas from her and the kids. And I'm down to 2 choices. Do I get a hot air station, or do I get a really nice electric screwdriver? So your comments in chat would be Gratefully received. You have to have a passport to leave. Passports for leaving is not necessarily the biggest issue. It's the passport to get in at the other end that's what causes you the hassle. For reasons I won't go into, I used to have 2 passports. And what that would mean is I could leave one country on one passport and arrive on another. And it would cause all sorts of confusion because people would be like, we saw you leave, but where did you go? Especially arriving into the US, they were like, we can see you left all these countries, but we can't see you arriving in them in another place. I'm like, and? And arriving into Scotland, that was the best one. Went for a trip to the UK with my wife to see family and all the rest of that stuff, and turned up at the border in Edinburgh. Got off the flight, and the Scots border guard was like, hey pal, show us your passport. So I showed him my British passport, and he was like, oh, I thought you were going to be Australian. I'm like, no, I'm English. You know, the place where they get your doll checks from? And he just gave me the biggest scowl. But I know I could get away with it because he can't refuse me entry off a British passport. Hey, Reverend, how are you? Frankenonist. I like that one. Morning, LTX. And John Doe. You love your hot air station. Now, I'm ashamed to admit that I have once or twice used my paint stripper style hot air gun for very basic hot air soldering work. It wasn't pretty, but it worked. So I'm pretty sure you guys are probably getting a little bit bored of watching me screw these screws in right now. So what I might do is in a moment, I'll swap over to this other screen and we can talk about Brett's situation. Okay, there we go. So the green bordered box, that is a Raspberry Pi. Doesn't matter if it's a 3, 4, or 5 at this point. It's purely for symbolic reasons. The koala picture is on a theoretical HDMI touchscreen. And the silver box is a theoretical 5-volt power supply. Now, what Brad's been concerned about and was asking about in my Discord was how do you cope with powering high current USB devices without overloading the power supply on the Raspberry Pi, the regulator, should I say, not the power supply. And this is a way you could, in principle, do it. So rather than feeding the positive power to the, in this case, the HDMI screen from the Raspberry Pi, you could actually cut that positive power line in the USB cable and then connect the ground of your external power supply to the ground that is connected through the USB cable. And then the positive of the external power supply can then be connected to what would be the positive rail going into the HDMI screen. So yes, Nick, what you would do is you would cut the red wire, just like it's one of those urgent bomb movies, you know, oh my goodness, cut the wire, cut the red wire. And by cutting that red wire, it means that you've no longer got the power being fed from the Raspberry Pi's onboard regulator. That's not going to reach, so we won't use that one. That's also not going to reach because that's the same length. That's the same length. So those short ones can go there, and the longer ones can go at each end. Sorry, just talking to myself while I sort this out. So let's go over this one more time. HDMI screen. Here's the HDMI connection. Red line in the, or positive power line in the USB connection is cut. You keep the negative line and you keep the two data lines. You then splice in the negative of the external power supply onto the negative line on the USB cable, and you feed the positive line from your external power supply to the positive in on the screen, and then you're effectively not drawing any power directly from the Raspberry Pi's regulator for powering the screen itself. Now, a lot of screens, if you buy a good one, will actually have two USB inputs, which means you wouldn't even need to directly splice into the data line itself. You could just simply make up a cable which plugs into the second port providing the power and just snip the red wire. That depends on the screen, of course. Let me find, actually, I've got a screen here. My screen is a pretty good one. This actually has a power port and a touch port. There we go. Power and touch. And there's an isolator, which means that if the power is plugged in, it will automatically deactivate the positive power from the touch USB so that it just works. So you could look at that option rather than buying one of these specific 4 printers. Phil, I need the pin out for the connector on the bottom of the BTT Pi TFT50. They will almost certainly be on GitHub, Alex. If you can't find it on GitHub, then let me know and I'll ask for you. $35 wave share 4.3 DSI. But John, it's the same issue. You're sucking that juice from the power supply of the Raspberry Pi. So if you're already doing lots of high draw devices, you're still effectively creating the same issue. It's not there? Okay, I'll ask around for you when I finish the stream. So we're trying to offload some of the high draw devices, and this is a way to do it. The DSI screens, it's almost impossible to be able to do that. Well, are they not color coded, Alex, if it's just the 4-pin? Because if they're color coded, black is always negative and the red is usually positive, and then it doesn't matter if you accidentally connect the data lines backwards, you can always swap them because it's not going to cause any damage. Now, how many people here were on I'm a 3D printing stream the other day where he was, let's be nice because he's a top bloke. He was making life hard for himself with his soldering technique. Oh, the one designed for the ribbon cable. Okay, I will have a look. So, the reason I'm talking about David for Armor 3D printing is he had this thing where he was trying to solder and solder and solder using a tip that was way too big and no flux. And all power to him, we were giving him a hard time, and He took it very, very gentlemanly and sportingly, and it had me thinking. I have been struggling and struggling and struggling for a long time with my really awesome soldering station that I've got here. It's what, close to 30 years old, and the tip is still immaculate. That's how good of a quality it was when I bought it. And it cost me about, if it was in today's dollars, it was about 60 Australian, so about, what's that, 40 American dollars in today's money, and it's lasted me all that time. It's bulletproof. But its soldering tip is way too big. It is designed for surface mount, not for surface mount, for through-hole soldering. And back in the day, when I was doing all my electronics, you were buying kits that were all through-hole. So after seeing Armour struggling and doing his thing and giving him a hard time, I was like, I'm being a bit of a hypocrite here. And I'm giving him a hard time, and I know I do the same thing. I struggle through when I know I should do something about it. So for those of you who don't know, you can jump on AliExpress and buy a soldering iron for $2 American and have it shipped to you. Are they amazing quality? No. Have I ever had any fail? Nope. And just like the iron being about $2, a complete kit of soldering tips for them is also about $2. So they are throwaway. But check out the fine point on those. That has a 1/4 millimeter tip, which is perfect for surface mount soldering. And there's a blade style if you're doing ICs and that sort of stuff as well. So I decided to put my money where my mouth is, even if I did it very cheaply. And I parted with a little bit of cash to up my soldering game, because when I did my last set of NeoPixels, it looked like a dog had puked on the thing, and I was not very proud of the soldering job. I just went with it. Now that is not me bagging out David in any way, shape or form, top dude, but it did inspire me to go, yeah, why do people do that to themselves? Now, some of these screws aren't fitting as well as they could. For some reason, the kit comes with flat-ended screws rather than pointy-ended screws. So that means screwing them into plastic holes isn't the easiest, especially when you forget to design in a small bevel. Or chamfer. Chamfer is the better description. Countersink, even better description. Not getting hot enough, fast enough. These things would, these cheap ones, will do 450C without any dramas. And I've left one running for days by accident on a couple of occasions. It completely nuked the tip, but the iron itself was fine. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 switches installed. And I'm still dribbling on to you guys without running out of anything to say, so we're doing good so far. So this skirt that I've got here, I tried over and over and over working with the step file. I'm still not very good at Fusion, but I'm working on it. I need a magnet, one sec. A magnet will make life easier. those of you not realizing what oh, it helps if they're actually steel screws and not stainless. Yeah. May as well take it off, it's not going to help. That's a handy tip for new beginners, and I teach it to all my students. If you've got just normal steel screws and not stainless, put a magnet on your screwdriver or your Allen wrench and you're far less likely to lose your screws. Steve! Oh, Aussie Steve, that is. Hey Steve, did you notice Arnott Shapes on stream? So we established that pretty much nobody's going to form next. But what we should do is be asking, what are you looking forward to most at form next? Now, everybody's going to say the index launch. Carbs for energy, that's what the kids do. Absolutely. Steve and I both have very small children, and we're both very old. Certainly a lot older than the humans were designed to deal with small children. Unless you're grandparents and you can give them back, of course. Why didn't I think of this sooner? For those unfamiliar, this is just a step drill. I have it to hand and I don't know where my countersink drill is. So it's been drafted. Now, as I understand it, the reason Steve didn't stream today is because he's working on his new garden shed workshop thing that he's doing. You're looking forward to Greeny's looking forward to the Prusa Bondtech Core 1 announcements. Now, there's all sorts of rumors and stuff flying about what's going on with the Core 1s and the potential for index upgrade. There's two camps. One camp is saying that the kit is going to be prohibitively expensive and you may as well buy a whole new Core 1. And the other camp is saying that you're not going to have a choice because Core 1, certainly for the foreseeable, won't be coming indexed up. It will only be available via an upgrade path. So I guess time will tell. Now, I do know for a fact that Prusa is flying nearly 100, well, flying/driving/training 150 of the staff into Formnext. So they're going to be having a big glove in while they're there. So let's just get this tidied up a little bit. Now, it doesn't actually matter which sockets I use because we can reassign what which one's which in software. So they're in place. Sorry, I'm just plugging in a few cables because my hand's getting sore and it gives me a break for a moment. Actually, let's be sensible about this. That one can go there because it will reach. I only had two with short cables anyway. Now, the other thing I did mean to design in, and I think I am going to reprint this, is some sort of cable management. So I think I'm going to put a cable management loop somewhere here and here and here. just kind of get all these cables tucked in and held nicely against the plastic. I'll also probably just cut that out in the... it's going to need support. I might just design in a support for that section. So let's get on to the next button. Now I'm probably going to run out of screws because I only had 10 buttons installed on the Ender, and now I've got room for 11 because that's one of the reasons for going for the contiguous front skirt, was to give me room for one more button and get rid of the silly gap that was between them, between the two skirts. There's about ½ inch gap. Your next print is certainly going to be a Prusa, so anything they announce will be of interest. I think I said last stream I've already put some cash aside for the Index pre-order, which is rumored to be either at or just after Formnext, so we'll see what happens there. And the Vivid pre-order opens on the 18th, I think the announcement said, for delivery in January. So maybe Bigtreetech's hoping that people aren't going to want to wait for the Vivid announcements and they're just going to part with their money. Oh, sorry, I'm going to wait for the Index announcements. Is anybody else prepared to part with cash at the risk of something being wrong with the Bontex? I mean, I've said I am. Is anybody else that crazy? I should probably put the short cable there, shouldn't I? Good job, they're hot swappable. It would have been nice if they'd had 3 sizes of cable for this, but I understand why they didn't. Having an increased bill of materials is always a pain in the backside. You're ready to see Index. Now, the big question is, will the open Index be exactly the same as the Prusa-fied Index? We know you're that crazy, Brad. I think I've lost one of these screws. Yes, I have. Tiny screws. Here we go. They're too tiny for memory. They're too long. Let's just give it a try, see what happens. Actually, that one there. Are there any more of those? No. Yep, way too long. So where are my cutters? Cutters. Before I cut it, just making sure it is actually going to bite. Now, good shot, Phil. Ended up in the rubbish box. 1. Now this is going to shit me to tears, having 2 different screw types. So I'll probably, when I rebuild it, swap them all over to that style of screw. Now, did you notice what I did? I hold the screw in another set of pliers when I cut. That way, the screw doesn't go bye-byes. So get rid of those out of the way and grab my much nicer to use Allen driver. Sorry, I know I've gone a little quiet. I'm just concentrating so I can get this last bit done and we can move on. Yeah, Luke, like I said, there's 2 sets of rumors going around about whether you will be or won't be able to justify or even be able to upgrade. So I'm hoping it's a case of the kit itself is not too expensive and we can all afford to be able to just do it. But if it's the point where it's like 3/4 the price of a whole nother printer, you have to start calling into question the sanity of not just buying a whole nother printer and having the capacity. That should be that way around. And that one can go into that port there. It's not fitting. Nope, must be that way around. So I'm missing 1. Okay, so let's just recap here. There's 1 spare button because I don't have enough room for all 12, and I've got 2 ports, which means that, yeah, there is only 1 not plugged in. So this is all going to need bundling. So those 2 can be bundled together somewhere here. Those could be bundled with it if I put it. Where's my texter? There. I'm just grabbing a marker pen So I know that that's where I want to put some sort of cable management. And on this side, what I might do is, looks like the same spot's going to be perfect. So after stream, I know exactly where I need to alter my CAD and do things. It's hard to see how it could be much given BondTech's pricing notes already. Let's bear in mind that we've got to change mechanically a whole bunch of stuff in the printer itself. We've got to have the parts to actually mount it. Let's see if I can zoom in a bit on that one. No, wrong camera. So what we know from Index is going to need somewhere to hold all of the extra heads. Sorry if that's on the piss a bit. Why is it so wonky? Did it die? It's died. That's better. So we know it's going to need, let's just assume this is a tool head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We think there's 6 based on the renderings we've seen. It's going to need somewhere to mount it on here, so that's going to be hardware. We're going to need some means of holding it all securely, so probably another brace across the bottom. Then we're going to have the, assuming Prusa is able to do it to us at the same price that BondTech is saying they want to charge, about $500 US for that. Yeah, adding $500, fingers crossed, wouldn't be too bad of an issue. But if it's more like $1,000, then it starts to become, do I buy a whole nother printer? So that's my thoughts on it. Hi, SK Mojo D. What we're currently working on is a macro button skirt for the front of my Ender 5. My Ender 5 has been heavily modified over the last few weeks to include the new Bigtreetech EBB Gen 2 board and a Rapido 2F high flow hot end, ultra high flow hot end, an Apus 2 extruder, and that's all mounted on a rapid burner tool head. So this is going to be the next part of the pimping up process, is putting on a whole bunch of macro buttons. And while we've been doing this, rather than just people having to sit and put up with me screwing things into place, we've been chatting about the upcoming Form Next and what we're expecting in terms of announcements from the various companies. Exactly right, Stephen. It's that where does the cost become justifiable for them just buying again? So what I'm going to do now is just quickly press in all of the inserts onto the buttons. So SK Mojo, these are little light diffusers which light up when the LEDs on these buttons light up. And then I printed a whole bunch of button heads. So it's just like basically a computer with RGB keyboard in that regard. In fact, it's almost exactly that same hardware. Now I'm going to put the more glassy ones on the right hand side, just so that they're all together. If I can get them to fit the right way, it's the right way. that one's not printed quite right. And neither has that one. Okay. Let's just show you what's going on. I didn't realize this. I hadn't actually had time to look. So let's have a look at one of the slightly milkier ones, the first kind before I was playing with this. And you can see there's actually a set of teeth which mount onto the top of the switch. On these ultra clear, well, these much clearer ones, for some reason it hasn't actually come out in the print. It's been lost. Quite why or how, I don't know. So I'll actually have to look at that more closely. In fact, I think I've still got it here. Yes, I do. Let me throw this up on the other screen. And we'll investigate together. Let's go to that view. So this is at layer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't need to worry about these. There we go. So there's the start of these I should have looked closer. Something in the slicing has lost that detail. That's very annoying. Let's go back to the... So it's definitely in the model. But it's being lost during the slice process. Must be something about my wall thicknesses or something, because you have to do some funky things to the wall thicknesses to make the everything all work for the clear. And maybe losing all the extra walls and stuff has lost the fidelity. Print settings. Parameters is only 1. Let's change it to 2. Sorry, squirreling again, I know. Doesn't seem to help. I'll have to play with that a lot more. Oh yes, that's the other controversy that people are talking about. The fact that Elegoo has announced in the last 24 hours that they're not going to be supporting the current version of the Carbon with a combo unit. Originally it was being sold as some sort of AMS style unit coming soon and being compatible, but now they're saying that they just can't make it work. Now, whether that's can't make it work physically or can't make it work financially is not clear. But that was an interesting turn up. I woke up to a post from 3D Printing Dave saying that, yeah, well, he certainly seemed a little disappointed by it all. And rightfully so. So, because of those other buttons being non-usable, I'm 1 button short. So let's go back to, sorry, I've been distracted and swapped my screens back. Let's go to there. Because those other buttons are non-usable, those other toppers are not usable, I'm 1 button short. It's easy enough fixed, and I'm confident that these existing ones will work just nicely anyway. So let's have a look at what buttons I've got. These are straight from the GitHub repo for the buttons. We have a home Y, a home X, a home all, and a home Z. We have a turn all the heaters off. Even the prestigious AMS isn't all that reliable. Some people get thousands and thousands of tool changes out of the Bamboo AMS and have no issues. some people have more than others. Some of that, I suspect, comes down to how well they treat their hardware, and some of it will come down to luck of the draw in terms of tolerances on that specific unit. Hi Ferndog, you're also here by the looks of it. Just having looked to say hi to anybody else who's turned up. Now it looks like we've got everybody at this point. So what we need to do now is work out what buttons go where. I am thinking home all, home Z, home Y, home X. It makes sense to keep all those 4 together. Emergency stop. I'm thinking that pride and place in the middle. It's easily spotted, and I might actually reprint that in red so it's really obvious that it's, oh crap, press that one. I know it won't match the rest of the printer, but it seems to make sense to me. Now this one I think is a macro for doing your Z offset. So that's something we need to work on. That is, I don't know. That's turn the hot end off. And that's some sort of other settings button. Now, these are the whole intention of these, and it actually makes it very clear in the GitHub, is there's supposed to be a jumping off point rather than you must use our buttons. So they're actually intending, and they do provide blanks for you to be able to put your own stencils into. Everybody who would buy a slice hot end, raise their hands. At this point, I can probably safely say not here. They're too hard to get hold of here, and therefore too hard to get spares for. That's another button. I have no idea what that icon is meant to be, and there's not really any guidance. Let's bring up the GitHub for this. In fact, that might be on my other Chrome tabs. Nope. While I'm doing this, shameless plug for my merch store. He's probably been spamming it in chat. And hopefully now where am I going with this? Hopefully now the Discord link is fixed properly. I went through and I changed some settings in the Discord link process so that now that the Discord link won't rotate. It should stay static, which means that hopefully the one that's being spammed in chat should now be the appropriate one. So let's be shameless about this while we're here. Exclamation mark Discord. Oh, it just spammed it as I typed exclamation mark Discord. So yeah, hopefully if that works, that's awesome. You should have a benchy button. I believe it's actually possible to do that. So maybe we could look at that. So I think it makes sense to keep those 4 together, and I'm going to put. Actually, I've gone squirrel again on you guys. Let me move that out of the way. So let's have a look at this. Blah, blah, blah. This is actually really well laid out in terms of how to flash it, but it's just how to flash an RP2040, which we've done dozens of times. And if you guys remember, we actually even did a custom name on this so that it shows up as the keys rather than button caps. Here we go. So this is the button clear part, And then I actually had to open a step file, that's what it was, to get to the buttons. Now I don't particularly want to load Fusion up on this machine right now. It's pretty heavily loaded with some other stuff I've got going on. But it's all there on the Discord, on the GitHub if you wanted to have a closer look. So what are we going to do here? We are going to put home all on the left. Home X next to it. Home Y next to that. Home Z following on. That's a little bit sticky. It might have a little bit of overprint in there somewhere. That's going to be fun. That button's stuck in. There we go. That's better. So we've got home all, home X, home Y, home Z. What have we got left? We've got, I'm taking this one as go to the center of the bed. So I'm going to put that one next. All right, before that happens again, that's not going to work, that's too big. I'm just going to run a scalpel around the inside of these holes. Also doesn't help that that one isn't even on square fill. I'm really not happy with the black that I used, but it was the one that was not in use on another printer at the time. So let's put this on there so I can press against it. And very gently inserting the scalpel blade into the middle. I'm just going to take the center out because I don't know if you guys saw that, but it was rotated by 60 degrees because I wasn't concentrating properly. Need something a little bit taller to rest it on so I can press this out. That'll do. Now this is definitely not a technique I would encourage my students to use. Sharp scalpel out the way. Make sure I've got that the right way around. Now concentrating this time. And pressing the button into place. Okay, so home all, X, Y, Z, center of the bed, emergency stop, which we're going to reprint in red. Then we've got something. Actually, let's put the cool down button next, because we know what that is. And then we'll do the bed leveling button. Oh, it fits all right. And then we've got 3 mystery buttons, but we don't need to worry about those. We've got them. We've got the 2 blanks, and we've got those, and we'll work out functions to put on there. If you've got any suggestions for functions, then please by all means let me know, bearing in mind that I don't have QGL and I don't have bed tilt on this machine, so don't need those sort of things. What's this going on? Looks like a part cooling fan switch. Maybe. Coffee warmer setting. You know what we should do? We should have a one that looks like a spool for spool warming. Loading and unloading filaments and purging. You're a thinker, Nick. I like those. Why not add a YOLO button that just reprints the last print? Also a good one. So load and unload buttons would definitely be a good idea. So I need to design up those, and we have one more button after the load and unload. There we go. Z negative 1000. I think it was last stream. I'm not sure if it was last stream or if it was somebody I was chatting with on Discord after hours. We were discussing the fact that what you would call Z Home China would actually be for me and Steve Z Home Bermuda Triangle. I have a PC in the garage next to the printers, and each printer has a screen which I can do all of that from. Although, to be honest, I cannot remember the last time I did a standalone mesh and tilt. Honestly, Steve, one of the main reasons I'm doing this right now is because these buttons have been sitting in a drawer, and the kids bought them for me over 2 years ago. Self-destruct in 5 seconds. Isn't that what the emergency stop button's for? Where are we at? We've got about 45 minutes left on stream. So let's just make sure we've got all of these buttons plugged in. Yes, we do. We've got the 2 mounting holes ready to go. So we just need to transfer across a couple of these M3 screws. That's not the right Allen key fit. And discuss which way the water would swell. That was what it was. Don't forget I left the PCB plugged in while I removed the buttons, and now my printer randomly cancels prints button. Gotta have some sort of gremlin to work on, otherwise the printer's boring. Now, if this was an Ender 5 Plus, they actually have dual Z built in, but they don't have Z tilt. They don't have independent Z normally. The first thing I do whenever a client brings me one is I go, let's make your life a lot simpler and give you dual Z. Because leaving people with a bed that big that you can't tilt adjust is just heartless. Actually, let's be sensible about this. Add an Ender button so it randomly disconnects the MCU from... Why blue nail polish? 2 reasons. It looks like real Loctite, and it means my wife's not going to steal it. But what it does is it gives just enough sticky on the hammerhead T-nuts that they rotate properly and don't get jammed up. That's all looking okay. Fortunately, the designer does allow me to get those new keycaps at any stage, so we can change and swap this around if we don't like it. Did I move that camera across? No, I didn't. That's a good angle. So, first things first, let's plug in the USB, which is there. And this is where, if you guys remember, we realized at the beginning of stream that that switch makes life impossible. So I am going to have to take to this with the side cutters. Which ones am I going to use to not snarl this up too badly? So just explaining for those who came late, I realized when I printed the first set of front skirts that the switch on the power supply, which is just here under the screen, actually conflicts with the top of the skirt. And I forgot to translate that into the new version of the skirt when I did it. So now, because I'm going to replace this anyway, I'm just going to nibble this out. Always wear your safety glasses, kids. Ooh. When you find a hot end, an expensive hot end, put that there with near where I normally keep them. Oh, this is something that came in the mail the other day. For anybody who builds small model kits, these are designed specifically for snipping into the sprues, and they have a very slight curve on the end. And they were about $4 on special on AliExpress, so I grabbed. Because I can guarantee I'll need them at some stage. And the other thing is we've got some other stuff that came in the mail to open in a few moments too. Nothing Secret Ninja. I'm sorry, Nick. I know you want me to open Secret Ninja stuff on stream, but I can't. So what I managed to get off the first time was about 10 layers. I'm just going for another small amount, about the same amount of layers. I'm just snipping at the layer line for this to keep it sensible. It's not looking particularly pretty. But it will be functional. So again, plugging the USB back in. And offering it up into the spot. Gonna need it a little bit deeper. Because it's one of those rocker style switches, what I'm running into is the interference from the fact that you can't just hit it past the rocker. That's really, really close. I'm sorry I can't show you guys. It just doesn't, it's just where everything is precluding you guys seeing. It is so close. I am going to have to reprint this entirely. Unless... Okay, let's explain to you, and this is the joys of designing something on the fly and installing it. I'm doing it like you guys would do with one of your own projects. Let's explain. Because the part has to be inserted like this and then rotated into place. So push, rotate, and then lined up. What's happening is this edge here is interfering with the feet. Just here. So there's a cutout here that it's meshing, it's supposed to fit into. And because I didn't think ahead and put a slope onto that surface, it just doesn't fit. There's two ways I could possibly get around it. And one of them is to use Rockin' T-nuts, which is what I'm going to try. And if that doesn't work, then I'm going to have to design it with some sloped surfaces there to allow it to rotate into place. So where are my Rockin' T-nuts? There we go. So for people who've never seen Rockin' T-nuts before, they have a little ball bearing here, which is springy, and they're actually pressed in past a lip to hold them in place with a little spring behind them. So you don't have any extrusion around to show you guys, but you rock it into the gap in the extrusion and then you screw up into it. So bear with me a sec while I put this in. This is where I drop it 10 times, guys. So talk amongst yourselves for a moment.
So one in place.
Ha ha ha.
Helps if I do it the right way up. Two in place. Now, I'm just going to explain what I did because some people have never seen this technique. D's nuts, yes, Nick. I was expecting a comment like that. When this is going into the groove, it's really hard to get it to work. What I found in a technique I saw on the interwebs is you put an Allen key or a similar sized thing into the hole where the screw goes in, and you actually use that as the lever to help you twist it into place. And quite often it will help it seat far easier than trying to do it all manually. Next, I'm going to undo these screws till they're just flush fitting. And we'll see if this then allows me to push fit this into place. Now the disadvantage of using this style of screw is it's really hard to line up the screw with the nut sometimes. I think that's pretty close. I think that's pretty close. Let's see if I can do this from the side so you guys can see a bit better. And what's holding that? I need to tuck all of the wires below the height of the power supply so that they don't interfere. Let's see if I can get that screw to actually engage. What about this one? I think I got 2 for 2. Let's warm this thing up. And that's going to take a moment to boot. So while that happens, about a month ago, I managed to score 2 rolls of filament on another streamer's stream. So let's have a look. This should be 2 rolls of ASA from Polymaker. Now, for new people to my streams who aren't in Australia, getting Polymaker here is difficult. While some of the range is available, it's only imported by a middleman importer. It's not distributed directly by Polymaker, and that means we can't get the whole range. And new filament often takes a while before it gets here. It looks like they've taped both boxes together. It's actually in a Polymaker box. Wow. Normally when I get these, they're in the original OEM's box rather than a Polymaker one. Here we go. Fiberon ASA CF08 in navy blue and in dark red. They're wrapped in foil, guys. And for those of you who haven't been on my stream before, where I live is very, very humid 1 minute and very, very dry the next, and that destroys filament. Yeah, they're both in foil. So I try not to open filament unless I'm actually going to use it, and then once it's finished, if you have a look up here, all of my filament is then stored in vacuum bags to keep it fresh, because otherwise it goes off, it goes hard, it goes icky, and it becomes unusable within a matter of days sometimes. So, sorry, I'm not going to be opening those foils directly until I'm going to use those filaments. So, where are we at? We currently have the printer all booted up and a whole bunch of lights are on. The glow on those buttons is actually quite subtle, although the color rendition is not very good on the camera. This one is actually showing as a green light, which you might just be able to tell. And then the rest are white. Let me turn off the overhead light, see if that helps. Hey Siri, turn the workshop light off. Siri? No, not today. Okay. What vacuum bags do I use? I have the crazy expensive ones, the NanoVac ones, which I came with the NanoVac. Wouldn't recommend. They die really easily. I mean, if you're buying the pump anyway and there's some sort of deal to get the bags cheap, go for it. But I've just been using the cheap and nasty straight off AliExpress. So the airlock is what those black ones are called. I've got both of them here. So this is the original airlock bags. Let's go. They're quite a bit bigger and they do feel quite sturdy, but I find that they puncture really easily. And these are the more like you're going to seal your food up style bags that you can get on AliExpress with the little, they've both got basically the same airlock seal. And yeah, that's what I've been using. And I did manage to pick up at one stage a whole bag of these humidity indicators that you can stick in there too, which kind of helps. You buy the cheap shit bags from Temu. Yeah, I think if you buy them in 20 from AliExpress, they work out about 80 Australian cents a bag. So plus or minus a little bit, 50 cents US a bag. And they probably last about 10 resealings. Have a great rest of the stream. No worries, Jeff. You have a good one, man, and join us next week. Now, just reminding everybody, just in case you have got things you're thinking about doing or you're planning for what you're going to do after my stream ends in about half an hour's time, everybody please jump across to Discord and jump onto Projecting Dad's Garage's Discord, where he's going to be building a Nerf pew. Let's see if I can grab you a link for his Discord while I'm here. Server settings, invite people, there we go. Copy. Paste that into chat. So it's Projects and Dad's Garage's Discord. He's very, very chatty. If you've got a headset, he'll be more than happy to chat along with you guys. But make sure that you do him the solid and mute yourself when you're in the channel while he's doing the build, unless you actually need to say something directly to him or somebody else. Just too much noise, otherwise it just makes life hard. So back to where we were. We are currently trying to program the buttons. So let's go to Chrome. Let's bring up Chrome. And let's go to ender5.local. Machine. Now, what I am doing is the Bigtreetech software I found is a little bit easier to follow in terms of the config. So I am using their config, which is exactly the same programming wise as the FiSec. It's just that they've laid it out a little bit more nicely. So let's have a look at this. There we go. Color configs. So if I'm reading this right, we should be able to go copy. I can't do that here easily. Go away. I was going to bring up two parallel windows, but that won't work. Let's go. That one. No, not that one. That one. And maximize. We should be able to go close and dashboard and G-code and go underscore ready, and it should do something. Hopefully it doesn't error out. No, it errors. Malformed command. Okay. No, that's not. I must have misunderstood what they were saying. Okay, let's go back in. What we first of all need to do is we need to unspaghettify them. We need to know what buttons are doing what. So we know that some of our buttons are like doing homing and things. So let's just press buttons randomly and see what happens. That's not doing anything. Also not doing anything. Let's try lit up button and see what happens. That seems to be a home Z because that one is saying home X and Y first. So let's swap in. Sorry guys, I'm just realizing now that I need to show you what's going on. There we go. So this one is must home axis. So what we've got currently set called emergency stop is doing something random. That one and that one don't appear to be set up for anything yet. Temperature too low to extrude, so that does appear to be set as some sort of load or unload macro maybe. That seems to be set the printer to do preheating. So that's good. What does the last button do? It makes things move. Let's zoom out a little bit now. So the very right-hand button is currently what is saying home all. So if we now do, now we can home Z. So that's definitely home Z. Move out of range because we don't have enough movement. So there's something wrong with whatever's set for the details there. What does this one do now? That's for nozzle wiping. That's also a macro that we should probably do. Nick, let's make you useful if you don't mind, please. Can you please send me a DM saying that I need a button for wipe nozzle and a button for load and unload? Have you hyped the printer yet? I'm not sure what you said meaning by hyped though. Mr. Boucher, I don't know who you are, but we don't tolerate that kind of language here. You can either self-evict or you can be nice to people, please. So we've got things going on, so let's have a play. Let's see if we can activate a few more buttons. Maybe we do need to have another look at their macros. Looks like they've updated it in not too distant past, and it's almost identical to what the HBB buttons do. In fact, this is all but identical. Yay. Status standby, status error hotkey. Oh, so what we're looking at here is you can set a status. So let's go up here a bit. So we need to set a button status. But what's the example G code that we need? Aha, that's what we needed. Copy. Did that do something? I don't think anything changed, but now we've got the aha. Let's get a piece of notepaper. Don't have one. What I do have is kitchen roll, kitchen towel. Ah, this piece of paper, trouble with. So we've got 11 buttons. What we need to do is quickly remap which of these buttons is which so that we can So if I'm reading this right, if we go button 1 and we change this to error, this should make one of the buttons turn red. And you guys can't see that because the camera view is not very good. There we go, that's better. So button 1, so 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11. So I've just made up a grid for myself. Button 1 is that one. Button 2 is that one, which makes sense because they're both on the core board. Is the very furthest left, which also makes sense because I'm pretty sure I remember seeing that. Button 4 is button 11. Button 5 is probably, oh, that was button 4 I did. I need to change that to button 5. It's that one. Button 6. Sorry guys, I know this is a bit monotonous, but 7. Did anything change then? Let's change that to ready. That might be the spare one that we're not using. Button 8. Nothing lit up on that. Button 9. Let's have a look at this code again. So right click, open a new tab. So rather than having to reload everything each time, I'm going to do something a bit more sensible. They all have code for them. I was just looking to see if there was something silly missing. Ooh, did you see this? Let's just explain what's going on for those who don't understand what NeoPixels are doing. NeoPixels basically are done in a way that a chain of data is sent, and the first LED to receive its information will then take the first piece of information and then strip off that information that's it's using, and it will pass the rest of the chain on. So if you have a look at the way this is doing it, it seems to be that the data is passed out to a button and then back, and out to a button and then back, and out to the button and back. That's an interesting way to do it. But that might also mean that if I don't have a button plugged in, it might stop the rest of the daisy chain. Oh, have I heard? Randomly cycle button positions weekly. Dude. So based on what I've just noticed, I am going to actually plug in the last button, hopefully without blowing anything up. Yeah, no, that's not going to happen. Let's shut that down. I was like, maybe I can just tilt the printer back and plug it in. But then I realized that that was just going to cause more heartache and pain than it was really worth it. Ooh, that's not going to help. One of the buttons had come unplugged. Let's fix that, which could have also been causing us some mischief. What did I do with the last button? I just had it in my hand a second ago. There. Sorry guys, I know you're staring into my back right now. Extra button is just sitting there in front of the printer. Let's power it back on. There we go, got 5 minutes left on this stream. We have made a lot of progress. Behold, I have created fire. It's called, is it Kubapedi? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's called Kubapedi, Stephen. Let me just Google that for you. Yep, there you go. So you've got the main town, but you've also got whole houses built into the mines. There we go, they all lit up. So that's a lesson learned. Let's close that off and go back to so it was button 8 we were trying to set into error. And that's the 4th one in. And we didn't get a response from button 7 either. So let's just do 7. 7 is the spare, which by chance is the one I actually wrote down here as a spare as well. So let's put that light on because you guys might be able to see better. No, it doesn't help. That's the best looking Ender 5 on Earth. It does actually look really smart with those blue buttons all lit up. It doesn't really show very well in the room right now. Let me see if I can turn off some of the ambient. It just makes it blow out even more, but it actually looks really smart. So what I'm actually seeing is a lot darker than what the camera is re-rendering for you guys. It's actually automatically brightening up the scene. See if we can flood the room with, oh, there you go. It shows a bit better when the whole room is a bit lighter. So the whole button area is glowing nicely. And then the white is showing through. It actually looks really pretty. I'll see if we can get a good picture and post it after the stream. So, Vorender. Now, what I am going to do is I'm most definitely going to reprint that front. I'm going to print up those extra buttons. Let's just put these on so that kind of get a visual. a little bit more. I did have an extra one that I'd printed out for something else. Oh, it's on the front of the box turtle. It's a slightly different button style, so it doesn't actually fit. Just sit there. Just sit there. I'll hold it there for a second so you can get the look. So if that's got the e-stop on it, eventually. Nah, I can't work it out. But yeah, I think this is actually going to look quite nice when it's all done and dusted. So yeah, we're getting there. With that said, it is very much time that we pass over to our good friend Alex, Projects in Dad's Garage. He's about to spool up on Discord for his Nerf Pew Pew build series. So I would encourage you to please head over there. I'll see if I can post that link one more time. Where's my Discord gone? There it is. Copy. Can you flash those things in a Morse code? You know what? I reckon I could probably get the LED effects macros to work on it so that they'll do a little rainbow thing going on when they're not in use. So that'll be fun. So let's get back to what I was saying. I'm going to finish untying all of these buttons in terms of which button goes in which order and that sort of stuff off stream. And I'm going to probably reprint that front fascia like I mentioned. And then next week we will do something more fun. I think if the things that come in. Can't talk about them until I know for sure. But we are getting there. So let's go back to this view here. No, not hands. Me. Just me. I have been Phil. I have been the Down Under Maker. Please head over to Alex's Discord and join him for his Pew Pew build stream. And I will see you all next week. I'm not sure exactly what time we'll be starting next week. It does come down to when Steve Builds does his stream. If he's streaming, then we'll be half an hour later than today's start time and we'll finish half an hour later. If he's not streaming, then we'll use the same times as today. I will post up on Discord with a link to my stream in all the usual places with a time as soon as I know what's going on. I have been Phil. I have been the Down Under Maker, and I will catch you all next week. Thanks for coming, guys. Bye.